There are certain elements of games that are so powerful for teaching and learning, and if we can include that into our environment, that would be great.
The format of this course is in a blog. Students take on the role of reporters and readers, and I play the role of editor of that newspaper. Students complete some short assignments on the various course topics that we cover over the term, and then they post them in the blog.
We wanted also to make the interaction between the content and students and the interaction between students very immediate, and that's what blog can allow.
Knowing that everyone in the class is going to read their work, it really motivates them to produce high quality work.
It's, you have your name on something, you want it to look the best it can possibly look. So when it comes out all together, everyone's producing their very best work.
Some people really embrace the role, and you can feel their arguments. It really is as if you were reading something in a local newspaper.
You believed that person was really saying what they wanted to say at that point in time, rather than so many other cases where you take courses where they're just kind of summing up something they were told to say.
Students can choose to write on any of the 10 course topics, so having that freedom to choose which course topics they want to write on, which areas they want to explore in more depth, really gives learners a sense of autonomy.
It's really helpful to be given guidelines, but you're not told what to do. You're empowered to do something that you feel passionate about. When it was self-structured like that, and the gaming aspect made it less of an obligation, more of something that was enjoyable.
And I'm excited to be here today with Jane McGonigal, author, researcher of Reality is Broken, and it is. So we're going to see if we can put it back together in the next 3 minutes or so.
Oh, good. I like a good challenge.
Good deal. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks.
Thank you for coming to Microsoft to talk with our teachers here at the Innovative Education Forum. You've been doing a lot of work, a lot of research, and you've been challenging people to think differently about reality as it relates to gaming. What's going on?
Well, what I've been looking at is the kind of engagement that happens in games that doesn't seem to happen in our schools, in our workplaces, in our real lives.
Right.
And the qualities of engagement, how we are more curious, more determined, more optimistic. We learn faster from our mistakes.
Right.
And we're more resilient in the face of failure. These are qualities that if we could take the kind of immersion and feedback and collaboration that happens in games and bring it to our real work, real learning, and real lives, we could have some of those positive emotions and kind of gamer superpowers.
Great. You talk a lot about failure in your book.
Yeah.
Talk about that research. I share conversations with people from time to time that if you fail at a job and get fired, you want to erase that from your resume.
Yeah,
you don't want to put that on an application. But if you fail in business, people will hire you tomorrow.
Right, it's true, because you've learned something. Yeah.
So how can we balance the two from what you've learned through gaming in the workplace for the classroom?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. A lot of my research, I look at both research on games and then research on learning, research in psychology. One of the studies I'm really interested in that came out last year showed that students learn better by taking tests than by studying for tests. Because when you take the test, you actually get real concrete feedback on what you know, what you don't know. And so essentially, being able to fail and get that feedback, so you see where the gaps are, you can actually build learning, actually helps you learn better. And of course, that's what happens in games, right? And there's no fear that if I don't, finish the level or complete the quest the first time I try, I'll never get to play the game again, or there'll be like some big F on my, Xbox achievement. Instead of having achievement badges, I'll have a bunch of Fs, So trying to bring that mindset of knowing that trying is what helps us learn, and, allowing students to try and fail and have that not be a grade, but rather an opportunity to learn and get better.
And so I started this process by thinking about reading a particular article in the New York Times recently. And in the article, a neuroscientist was talking about how children were presenting themselves with attention deficit disorder. And their parents would come in and they'd say, my kid can't possibly have ADD because they're super, super good at focusing on video games. But when they go to school, they're really bad. And the neuroscientist was debunking this idea, right, in the article. She trotted out researchers like Dr. Christopher Lucas at NYU, who said games don't teach the right kind of attention skills, right, where kids have sustained attention where they're not receiving regular rewards. And she trotted out experts like Dr. Dimitri Christakis at the University of Washington, who said that kids who play a lot of video games may find the real world unpalatable or uninteresting as a result of their sensitization to games. And so I sat there and I thought to myself, I was scratching my head and I thought to myself, is it that our children have ADD, or is our world just too freaking slow for our children to appreciate? Seriously, consider the picture you're looking at right now, like in my era, even my grandfather's era, sitting down on a Sunday afternoon to read a good book with a cup of tea. Like, I just have to say, I don't think that today's kids are ever going to do that. And the evidence is found in the games that they play. Consider the video game World of Warcraft. When I was growing up, the maximum skill that I was expected to display in a video game was simple hand-eye coordination, a joystick and a firing button. Today's kids play games in which they're expected to chat in text and voice, operate a character, follow long and short-term objectives, and deal with their parents interrupting them all the time to talk to them. Kids have to have an extraordinary multitasking skill to be able to achieve things today. We never had to have that. It turns out things like that actually make you smarter. Research by Arne May et al. At the University of Regensburg in Germany found that when they gave participants, and this was actually done on adults, simple tasks to learn like juggling, in 12 weeks, people who were asked to learn juggling display a marked increase in gray matter in their brain. On an MRI, you can see people get more gray matter after 12 weeks of learning juggling. And in 2008, they went back and redid the study to see why the gray matter increased, and they discovered it was the act of learning that produced the increased gray matter, not performance at the activity itself, which is a very, very interesting finding. It also may reinforce this idea, which should go over well here as well, that multilingual people outperform monolingual people on most standardized tests by about 15%. There's something that happens in the brain from that kind of activity. And Andrea Kusewski, speaking at Harvard, talked about these 5 things that people do to increase their gray matter and to teach themselves to increase their fluid intelligence. And fluid intelligence is the intelligence we use to problem solve. It's different from crystalline intelligence. It helps us problem solve. And she identified from the research that there were 5 things you could do. Seek novelty, challenge yourself, think creatively, do things the hard way, and network. Think about those 5 things. Any of you play video games? Does it resemble the basic pattern of a video game to you in any way? These are 5 things that recur in all very successful video games. And it also is connected to a constant and exponential increase in learning. Video games fundamentally present a continuous process of learning to users.
Hey guys, quest tags, take a seat in your cabinet.
This is the World Peace Game, and it's about 28 years old. It's a political science simulation. It involves usually about 25 to 30 students. And the game basically pits 4 or 5 countries against each other in every way, politically, socially, militarily, and economically. They're pitted against each other, and they have to use their imagination, use their thinking skills to think their way out of these problems that they're pitched into head first. The game starts with them inheriting situations on the verge of chaos and combat, and they've got to think their way out of that situation.
There has to be a way we can use this. We have to figure that out. We can use this volcano, use this eruption to make something good happen.
We have started a counterattack and sending its air force.
Oh God. if you look on the World Peace Game map, he has like that much oil.
So does Caden. And Caden's our complete ally. And we can also get some oil from him.
Okay. We're not going to. Like, Caden said you would. Caden, we're not going to attack them? I know. He did say that.
All the ships that we moved was for confusion, and it wasn't for battle, and that we come in peace.
First, I gave him 7 days to do something about the microscopic organisms, and he's now 2 days left, and he hasn't even boarded the island and tried to do anything about it, and I think he's trying to attack me instead of trying to do what he said he was going to do.
I want it to be so thrilling that they don't want to do without it, but so challenging that they almost can't do it. And to have the two contrasts, have those two opposite things working together, it's, for me, that kind of tension is what I think is where learning occurs. They have that love and fear, and that learning just torques on that kind of mismatch, I think. And that seems to be what's happening in this game.